how did it come about? This sort of a situation, because it's something, unnatural for a Muslim to be expounding his case from the opposition's book. Now, the way it happened is this, that I didn't go into a university or a Darul Ulum to learn this science of comparative religion. I was forced into a situation where, as a young man, when I left school, I happened to be working in a country shop at a place called Adams Mission Station. Mission Station. Adams is an American board mission. Secular education as well as missionaries were being trained. And I was working in a shop selling sugar and salt, flour, handkerchiefs over the counter. And the missionaries who were getting training at that college, an American college, missionary college, they were harassing the Muslim young men serving behind the counter. We are all young men, just left school. And they came to tell us, attacking us, whatever they learned, they used us as a punching bag for practicing purposes. They said, Muhammad had so many wives. He spread his religion at the point of the sword. He copied his book, the Quran, from the Jews and the Christians, and on and on. And they made life so miserable for me. I felt like leaving the job and running away. But jobs were hard to get those days. The only thing that was left was either fight back or run away. And you can't fight back without weapons. In other words, knowledge. If you have no knowledge, you can't defend yourself. And by the mercy of God, I came across a book in my boss's warehouse, an old dilapidated worm-eaten book full of mildew. And the title of that book was Izharul Haq, which means the truth revealed. And when I read this, it dealt with the problems of the Muslims in India. When the British conquered India, they realized that at any time anybody will give them trouble, it will be the Muslims. Because power was wrenched out of their hands. They had tasted dominion, power, and once you taste that, you feel like yearning to get it back again. The Hindus, the overwhelming majority of the people of India, they were then as docile as the cows that they were worshipping. There was no fear from that quarter, but they feared the Muslims. So they started pouring in the missionaries into India like frogs in the rainy season. Change the Muslims and teach them to turn the other cheek, and you can rule them for 1,000 years. This was the theme of the book, and how we were to defend ourselves against the Christian missionary attacks. So I read the book, and as a result of that, I started reasoning with these students. And when I went to Durban, it became a hobby with me, attending religious lectures on comparative religion, on biblical prophecies. And one of the lectures which put me really into this field actively was one delivered by a certain Reverend Hyton. I didn't know at that time that this Reverend Hyton was a Seventh-day Adventist. He was dealing with biblical prophecies, prophecies from the Bible. And that evening that I was attending his lecture, he was expounding a prophecy from the book of Revelation. In the Christian Bible, the last book is called the book of Revelation. The Roman Catholics, they call it the Apocalypse. Apocalypse. There's some TV program, video program going on in America, Apocalypse Now. Means Qiyamah, Doomsday, now. Atom bomb attack, Apocalypse. That is the title of the last book according to the Roman Catholics. And the Protestants, they call it Book of Revelation. In chapter 13, verse 18, there is a prophecy about a beast. Beast means an animal. And the number of that beast is 666. And this reverend went on to expound that evening that beast mentioned in that book is the Pope of the Roman Catholics. I didn't know that this man was a Seventh-day Adventist. I was just wondering, so how can you talk about, a man respected by millions of people, as a great man? Pope means father, as a father, religious father. And this man was trying to prove that he was the beast mentioned in the book of Revelation. And the way he went and proved his case was, he said, you see, this number, 666, if you take the Latin for the vicar of Christ, vicar means a representative of Jesus Christ. The vicar of Christ in Latin, if you give numerical values to these letters, it comes to 666. So he proved his case to his audience that that beast was the Pope. The latest that the Christians have come out with is that they say that this beast is Dr. Kissinger. Now how does that come about? You know, they're very ingenious. These missionaries are so ingenious, you know, you marvel. How did they get wahi, ilham, or you know, is the Holy Ghost coming and telling them what happened? How do they discover these things? So he says, you see now this beast, the number of the beast is 666. So we must now give numerical values to our alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. You give them numerical values. A, 6. B, 12. C, come on, how many? 18. D, 24. Can you see? E, 30, and so on. You grade them by sixes, every letter of the alphabet, and you write down Dr. Kissinger. And you give those numerical values, and you get a grand total is 666. So he says, well, it is Dr. Kissinger, and so on. But now look, it is not for us to enter in this type of controversies. It's not for us. Keep out of it. I'm just trying to show you how ingenious the Christians are in trying to prove their cases. But now, I heard other lectures and I read literature on the subject of biblical prophecies. And I was told that this book, the Bible, speaks about Gog and Magog, Soviet Russia, you know, the devilish kingdom. It speaks about Israel coming into being. It speaks about the Pope. I said, it speaks about so many things. Then what does this book say about Muhammad? Now that crept up in my mind, and that question I kept on asking people questions. I said, look, the learned men of Christianity, what does the Bible say about Muhammad? If it speaks about Israel, speaks about Russia, it speaks about the Pope, surely this book must have something to say about Muhammad. A man who made it possible at that time, it's 1,000 million Muslims today, but at that time we were 700 million. I said, a man who made it possible for 700 million people to believe in Jesus and to honor his mother Mary, to defend her against the calumnies of her enemies. Surely this book must have something to say about such a man. So I went on my research, wanting to find out what does this book say about Muhammad. At that time I didn't know this Quranic verse, but I went on a search. And it was about a time when I was to go to the Transvaal. And in the Transvaal, like most of you, my brothers and sisters, you know, most of you are bilingual. You speak English as good as Afrikaans. Most probably Afrikaans is the home language, but your English is as good as your Afrikaans. On the average, you are more bilingual than most Afrikaners. You people, the colored as well as the Malay, you are more bilingual, speaking both languages equally well compared to the average Afrikaner. That is my discovery. So while going to the Transvaal, they too, my people, even the Indian Muslims, they also speak Afrikaans. So I was going on a lecture tour, so I said, look, let me try and practice a bit of Afrikaans. And to do that, there was nobody around me to speak Afrikaans to. So I started looking in our telephone directory in Durban for the DRCs, the Dutch Reformed Churches. And I found a church, DRC. I phoned. I said, look, Domini, that's what you call a priest. I said, look, Domini, I'm in